over and over we get put in these weird situations, like getting traded to another team. Like, you're just supposed to be okay with that? Like, you put all your heart and soul into one team. This guy with the Clippers jersey, what I'm talking about. Put all your heart and soul into this team, and then one day they're like, no, we're good. Like, pack up your you're going to Nashville. Imagine if there was trades in relationships, and one day your wife is just like, honey, I kind of want to Jason now. So I traded you to Sarah. I need you to pack your up and leave tonight.
As they say, there's always truth in good comedy. Welcome to SI Now. I'm Robin Lundberg here with Ryan Aselta. Ryan, yesterday was Super Bowl Media Day, but the NBA was like, nah, we'll take that attention. Thank you very much.
Yeah, they sure did. Blake not quite going to Nashville, but yeah, he's on the move. We're going to get to Super Bowl opening night in just a bit, but the biggest story of the night came out of Hollywood, where the Clippers traded the face of their franchise, Blake Griffin, to the Pistons. Now, here's the nuts and bolts of the deal as Griffin, Bryce Johnson, and Willie Reed head to Detroit in exchange for Tobias Harris, Avery Bradley, Boban Marjanovic, and a first and second round draft pick. Now, that first round pick is protected in 2018, 19, and 20. Now, Robin, the question is why? Why did the Clips decide to trade Griffin right now, especially after they signed him to a 5-year, $171 million contract this offseason?
Well, I think they were smart because they realized the reality of their situation. You know, when Chris Paul left, Lob City was done. Their chance to contend was done. We've heard about the rumors with DeAndre Jordan. Well, I think the Clippers sat there and said, all right, we're not getting to contending status with this core. Why wait around? Let's get the rebuilding process started. In the meantime, we don't have to go right into the cellar because they got good players back in Harris and Bradley. And also, if I'm looking at it practically, you have to take Griffin's contract into consideration. You mentioned he just signed it, but he's been injury prone, including, this year having some injuries as the season's rolled along. So you don't want to be stuck into that deal going forward. I think the Clippers looked at their landscape and said, you know what, we need to get to that next era. No better time than now to start.
Yeah, they cut bait. It just seemed odd to me because they kind of hamstrung themselves in signing him to that deal, because from all reports, not many teams were interested in trading for Blake because of the contract. And it is a mega contract that Detroit is taking on here. So I don't have any issue with them moving on from Blake and kind of hitting the reset button on the franchise. I agree. When Paul was traded, that was the end of the run of the Clippers as we knew it. JJ Redick also getting moved as well. So moving Blake is not the big deal for me. And they get back a little bit of talent, but this is clearly a rebuild because when you get Tobias Harris, who's going to be a free agent a year from now, when you get some of these guys in the trade, a guy like Avery Bradley is going to be a free agent this coming year. Who knows if those guys are even in the long-term plans of the Clippers. This seems like a Doc Rivers complete rebuild, though. We know he likes Avery Bradley. He's getting a talent that he had in Boston, a guy who can play perimeter defense. And two guys, Tobias Harris, borderline all-star. Maybe he goes and takes that next step in L.A. to become more of an elite player than he was in Detroit.
Yeah, and for the Pistons, if you're looking at their side of things, they made a move that I understand here because in the office a couple of weeks ago, we were asking about the worst situations in the league. They were amongst them because the worst place you can be in the NBA is this purgatory of mediocrity. And they were right there with no way to get to contending status and not bad enough to tank and get into the lottery. So if you're going to be in that situation in the meantime, you might as well bring in somebody you could sell in Blake Griffin, who is a star-level player. I'd call him a second-tier superstar if we're going over the hierarchy of the NBA, if you will. I mean, there are some questions about the adaptability of his game, with the three-point shot becoming a prerequisite for bigs, but he can handle the ball, he can pass the ball, and he certainly brings a level of excitement with his ability to throw it down. So I think if you're a Pistons fan, you're going, okay, I can watch Blake Griffin for a few years if we're never going to get to the promised land. Meanwhile, if you're the Clippers, you're realizing, we had that, and we're trying to get to that promised land sooner rather than later, and the only way to do that is to accelerate the sooner.
What do you think? You pair him with Andre Drummond. Is that now the best front court in the Eastern Conference?
It's hard to say that. Drummond's not a great defender. I don't see Blake Griffin and he posing too much of or imposing too much fear in the hearts of guys going to the basket. He certainly has always played, Blake has, with a rim-running, rim-diving center like DeAndre Jordan. I think it's a very good front court, but I wouldn't say it's going to, elevate the Pistons to the top of the East. What I do think it does is put them in the playoffs.
Yeah, and they're kind of in the middle of the pack right now in that Eastern Conference as we speak.
Meanwhile, Tobias Harris may no longer be with the Pistons, but he'll definitely miss his old teammates. Watch this.
Best dancer on the Pistons.
Best what?
A best dancer on the Pistons.
Oh, I don't know them by name. Oh, you talking about? Oh, you talking?
Oh, like among your guys.
The girl dancer.
Oh, among that. So.
Oh.
Okay.
Best.
Let me clarify. Let's start. Take two. Best dancer on the Pistons.
He'd be mad if I didn't say it, so I'm gonna say Boban, because I don't know if you've seen, I've been teaching him some moves. I taught him the Millie Rock a little bit, so he's a work in progress, but he gets an A for effort though.
Funniest teammate.
Honestly, that's gonna be Boban, cause he picks up on all the urban slang, so sometimes he'll just be like, facts, B.
Best singer rapper on the team.
Andre. Andre got his own little rap career, so he's the best rapper on the team.
Best taste in music.
Henry Ellison, he likes a lot of different genres, but he's a big Sean fan too. He's always beside line, so he got some good taste in music.
Best tweeter.
Reggie Bullock has a good Twitter, but he tweets too many sad relationship quotes all the time that I get on him with, so I always ask him who broke your heart. So, but he has a good Twitter.
You guys play in the Motor City. Best car.
Andre, he got this van that's got TVs in it. He can play Xbox in his car before the game, stuff like that. So he got the best whip.
Well, he's 7 feet tall, so he needs the space,
Yeah,
right, for the luxury.
Yeah.
All right, Rob, we've got some breaking NBA news this morning as the Wizards have announced they're going to be without their point guard, John Wall, for the next 6 weeks. He's going to have his knee cleaned up in a procedure. When they call it a procedure, a cleanup, doesn't sound overly serious. This sounds like a timing move maybe to get this done before a playoff run. But it's a playoff run might come into question now when you look at the Wizards, a team in the middle of the pack in the Eastern Conference, 5 games over 500, and a team with Wall hasn't been playing all that well. They've lost 4 of their last 6. Does this take a hit to that Wizards playoff run going down the stretch here?
I think it just emphasizes some of what you said. The Wizards have had a rough season. Wall himself has had a rough season, and it just doesn't feel like it's their year. I mean, this is unfortunate news for him, of course. I think it's unfortunate news for them if they were thinking big picture. We talked about the Clippers earlier, and I commended them saying, all right, we realize the reality of our situation. Let's make this move with Blake Griffin. I kind of thought the Wizards should consider the same thing with John Wall. You have a guy who's viewed as a star-level player. Maybe you could get something and his value very high and try to accelerate your quasi-rebuild on the fly, because the core that the Wizards have isn't going anywhere.
Yeah, we'll see how they handle this. The trade deadline's February 8th, so does Washington add a body to plug the hole left by John Wall, or do they just kind of, as you said, head in a different direction and kind of say they're not going to be the contenders in the East with or without Wall this season? All right, in baseball, the Cleveland Indians' controversial mascot is heading into retirement. The Indians announced that 2018 will mark the final season the team uses the Chief Wahoo logo on its uniforms. Now, the logo, which dates back to 1947, has been viewed by many as being racist. So the question now moving forward here, with Chief Wahoo being retired, how is this going to affect the controversy surrounding the Redskins and their team name?
Well, somebody's taken action, right? So it sort of puts some pressure on them. These are duh things to me. We live in a society sometimes where people can be offended about everything, but there are things that are legitimately offensive, basically on the gut test immediately, the blink test, and the logo there for the Indians is one. And the team name, Redskins, to me, is another. I mean, I remember asking my dad when I was a kid about that name, and I said, what if we replace red with another color? How would people react to that? And I think the unfortunate circumstances that Native Americans have faced in their history in this country has lessened the outcry about these things due to a sheer numbers game. But it's obvious a move that I think is past due for the Redskins, and maybe this is something that puts a little pressure on them because someone else actually did take action.
Let's look at the details of this, though. So the Indians announced they're taking away the logo after this season, 12 months from now. The statement move would have been immediately, Chief Wahoo is gone and that's it. No, they're going to leave him around, so they're going to sell a ton of merchandise this year to make some extra money off Chief Wahoo in 2018. And let's face it, local stores in the area of Cleveland are still going to have the gear with Chief Wahoo, so he's not completely going away anytime soon. When it comes to that pressure you mentioned, though, regarding the Redskins, I mean, Daniel Snyder has been on the record and said, I will never change the name of the Washington Redskins. He's not an owner that traditionally caves into pressure. He seems more like he's going to puff his chest out and buck up a little more. So I don't know. I don't see it prompting a whole lot of change in Washington.
You know, it's just a team name. I don't understand this, you know, like you said, digging your heels in mentality. And when you talk about merchandising, I'm not an expert on this, but I'd have to imagine you'd be able to capitalize on the sales of the new gear and the new jerseys if you did change mascots and change uniforms.
Well, we've seen that in the NBA when they change jerseys every other week. And the Warriors have what? I don't know what the count is, maybe 8 different jerseys this year. They're all making money off of that, that's for sure. All right, May 5th, Robin, that's when we're going to get the boxing rematch the sport has been waiting for. 8 months after they fought to a draw, Canelo Alvarez and Gennady Golovkin will go at it again on Cinco de Mayo. Robin, are you excited for this rematch?
I will be once it gets closer. A big fight on Cinco de Mayo. I mean, come on. And the last one, sort of controversial decision, the way it ended. I think the second fight will be better than the first, too, because the first is always going to be a feeling out process. For Golovkin, he had to deal with Alvarez's combinations, something he hadn't seen before. For Alvarez, he had to deal with the power Golovkin throws with. Now that they both know what's in front of them, I think you'll see them let their hands go a little bit more, and I think you'll see a more entertaining bout.
Yeah, I'm excited when I hear the quote from Alvarez saying, this time Golovkin won't have any excuses regarding the judges because I'm coming to knock him out. That's the type of hype you like leading up to a fight. And this is the biggest fight we've seen in a while. I mean, the Mayweather-McGregor was a spectacle, not a boxing match. This is a legit boxing match. They still got to decide where they're going to fight this match. 3 locations are coming down to. It's Vegas, where they fought the first time, Madison Square Garden, which is big-time Triple G territory as far as fan base, and then AT&T Stadium in Dallas, which you would think would favor Alvarez with some of the Mexican support coming there. I think that's going to play a big role in some of the hype leading up to this. And, you know, a lot of people thought, you know, Triple G won this fight despite the official outcome the first time around. I don't know. I love a good rematch. I mean, Rocky II was fantastic, right, Robin? Come on.
The Super Bowl is kind of a rematch, right? I mean, we at least have seen these two teams before. Yeah. And yesterday was media night in Minneapolis. That's how you say it. Many question how worthwhile that event is. So let's take a look at some of what was said, starting with the Patriots.
Hey, Coach, why did the coach went to the bank?
Who?
Why did the coach went to the bank?
I don't know.
To go get his quarterback. You get it?
You gotta be on TV as a comedian.
You have one of the greatest smiles, sir. You should smile more often.
I've been in the weight room. I've been working out. I know you've been rehabbing the hand, so I got to challenge you to the thumb war. That's the left?
That's my left.
That's the left? Oh, you going to beat me with the left?
Not ready yet.
It's not ready yet?
So should we read into Brady being unable to thumb wrestle?
I don't think so. I mean, he's having fun with an old teammate there, Willie McGinnis. I mean, Brady's got the gloves on in the press conference. He's clearly playing this up. The stitches have been removed. We saw what happened in the AFC Championship game. Tom Brady's hand is fine. I think it's probably instinct from knowing I had an injury on that hand that he's just reaching out. He's not going to thumb wrestle and risk doing anything. I think Tom Brady is just fine. I don't know your take on that.
Well, I mean, we saw what happened in the fourth quarter against Jacksonville. So whether or not the cut is healed, he'll be okay, I think, when the game rolls around. As for the Eagles, here's some of what they had to say.
That looks beautiful. That looks beautiful. So how are you feeling about this weekend?
Man, I'm feeling good, man. Like I say, we the underdogs all the time, and we're going to continue to keep, proving people wrong.
I know that's your guy. And you say, if he goes out there and win this one, maybe get MVP. You're going to say, Nick, you my man, but you know these are keys to my car, right?
We'll save that one for later.
You know these are the
Just save that one for later.
You think Carson Wentz is rooting for Nick Foles?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Dion putting him on the spot. What's Carson going to say? I think Carson Wentz should be and is very secure when it comes to his position on the Philadelphia Eagles. Before he got hurt, he was going to be the MVP of the National Football League. So regardless of what Nick Foles does in the Super Bowl, this is Carson Wentz's team. And I imagine seeing Carson Wentz over the last 2 years now and hearing some of his interviews and press conferences, this is a team guy. He's rooting for his team. Nick Foles is a teammate. He knows him well from working together. Yeah, I think he's rooting for Nick and has no concerns for next year.
I agree with that, but check this out. If you take their career, including the playoffs, the win-loss record, Foles 19-11, Wentz 18-11, completion percentage, both at 62%, touchdown to interception ratio, 52-18 for Foles, 49-21 for Wentz, QBR 61 and 60 respectively. So their numbers are dead even. More proving, I think, the point that perhaps we slept on the Eagles' ability with Foles in Wentz's stead because they were a great team all around, and maybe he would flash some of that Chip Kelly magic once he had some surrounding pieces. But I think that goes to show you that the Eagles are very live in this game, and I think it's why the line has been moving down all the way from 5.5 to, I think, 4.
Yeah, it's down to 4 now. I think one thing we're also quickly learning is that regardless of what happens in this Super Bowl, we're going to hear Nick Foles' name linked to teams in need of a quarterback and what they're willing to give up. Kind of like what we've heard with a lot of the free agent quarterbacks at this point, especially Kirk Cousins. Teams like the Jets, who are in dire need of a QB, watching a Nick Foles, who really is a backup, compete on the Super Bowl stage. They got to be chomping at the bit to try to maybe bring a guy like that in.
What kind of game from Foles needs to happen in the Super Bowl for there to be a quarterback controversy?
I don't think it exists. I mean, this guy can have a monster game, win the Super Bowl. This is Carson Wentz's team. The Eagles have committed to Carson Wentz long-term with the draft pick, what they've built around him. I don't think anything's on the line.
I say 300 yards and 3 touchdowns. It's at least a talking point.
That's reasonable, right? I mean, we could see that. All right, in college basketball, no movement atop the top 25 rankings, despite Virginia picking up their signature win of the season. SI's Dan Green is here to talk some college hoops. And Dan, Virginia goes to Cameron Indoor. They knock off Duke, but they remain number 2 behind Villanova. Should the Cavaliers at this point be number 1 in the country?
They certainly have a case. I mean, that win is one of the best wins anyone's picked up this season, winning at Duke. But, you know, being number 1 is a tough thing. There's kind of a chronological bias there. Once a team gets to number 1, it's hard to replace them until they lose. And so debating them and Villanova, they're 2 different teams. Villanova right now is the most efficient offense in the country. Virginia has the most efficient defense. You know, in terms of whether one is definitively better than the other, it's tough to say. As I said, the Duke win is the best win either of them has. But this Virginia team, you know, we're used to seeing Virginia teams that are very good on defense and they're, you know, good on offense, pretty good, and that's kind of the way their balance shifts. This defense that Virginia has this year could be the best one that they've had under Tony Bennett, which is really saying something if you look at the quality of defenses they've had over the last 5-6 years. So this could be the best version of kind of the typical Virginia team we've seen, and with a defense this good, that it could be the one that really pushes them, you know, finally deeper into March.
Now, obviously, there are issues at Michigan State far more important than basketball, but they are still playing and are currently at number 5. How do you feel the players on the court will respond when it comes to playing to this controversy?
It's hard to say. It's hard to know what will affect individuals and humans on a human individual level. One of the more interesting things to come out of the players' responses so far is their point guard, Cassius Winston, was asked this weekend about whether they are, you know, putting up walls and trying to focus on basketball. And he said, you don't put up walls in situations like this. It's a subject that you want to find answers about, and someday they're going to have to talk to their sons and daughters about. And I think that however it affects them on the court, I think that sort of approach in general is encouraging. You know, these are young men learning to navigate the world. It's an issue that needs to be addressed very thoroughly, both within the sports community and on campuses and with you know, men at large. And so however it affects them basketball-wise, it's good to see that, you know, there's some thoughtfulness going into it. It needs to be addressed in that way. And it's also not going anywhere. When you have Tom Izzo, one of the highest paid public employees, owes the public a lot of answers here. And so the players are not going to be able to escape from it, you know, so to speak. So the best thing that could happen, however it affects them basketball-wise, and again, it's hard to know with all the variables there, is that they give it some real thought and it's not just seen as a distraction from basketball.
All right, let's talk about Arizona, a team that's back in the top 10 now at number 9. They've reeled off 6 straight wins. This is a Wildcats team, Dan. Preseason ranked number 3. They lose 3 in a row in November. Have the Wildcats kind of righted the ship here, and should we kind of expect them to continue to rise at this point in the season?
I think we do have to take them very seriously. They're certainly looking like the best team in the Pac-12. They still have all the talent that everyone was so enamored with entering the season. And in terms of in the tournament, one of the things we've seen over the past few years is that when you have a really dynamic, game-changing guard that can power a deep run. And Alonzo Trier is looking like that kind of player. They're also getting Raleigh Alkins back soon from a foot injury, which should give them another scorer. And then obviously they balance that with DeAndre Ayton, the potential number 1 pick in the draft, 7-footer down low with a very dynamic talent. So I think that this is a team that we should take seriously on a national level. They kind of just went through the softer portion of their Pac-12 schedule. Things are going to get a little harder in February, so there might be some bumps in the road. But I do think that this is a team that we have to start thinking about more a little bit like how we did before the season, as opposed to that team that fell apart in November.
Now, it was odd to see them out of it, but Kentucky back in the top 25 at number 21 after upsetting West Virginia on the road. Do you think all's well in Lexington?
All's well is kind of it's a relative thing, especially in Lexington where expectations can be so high. John Calipari went out of his way to say after the win over West Virginia on Saturday that he's asked if this was when the light goes on for the team, so to speak, and he said with a team this young you can't really count on that sort of thing happening. And so it's been beaten to death how young this team is and that it's such a work in progress. But when you have a win like that in an environment like that against a defense like that, coming back from a deficit like that, that's a really encouraging sign for such a young team trying to kind of develop that poise and that maturity. The 2 other really important things that came out of that game, Kevin Knox had a huge game as a scorer. He's looking like he might be that kind of impact scorer and getting more comfortable in that role. And then Jared Vanderbilt, a forward working his way back from a preseason injury. He's only played 4 games so far. And on a per possession, per minute basis, his rebounding numbers have just been monstrous. He's really killing it on the boards, but his offensive production has kind of slowed down, or not even slowed down, just hasn't really gotten off to the best start. And so he hasn't been able to play extended minutes. Cal said afterwards that he's got to get him comfortable, and if he's able to do that, if Vanderbilt's able to stay on the floor longer, he could give this team a big edge and kind of that toughness and some rebounding that they could really use.
It's like a rite of passage. Calipari playing the young card.
Yeah.
Every single year. They're a young team every year in Lexington. Dan Green, thanks, man.
Thanks for having me.
After years in the making, David Beckham finally has his MLS team in Miami. Here to discuss is Planet Football's Luis Miguel Echegaray. And unlike some of the other expansion teams, it was a quicker process for them. Why did it take so long for Beckham to get this Miami franchise?
Well, I mean, I don't think we have an hour for us to really go down to all the obstacles that David Beckham and his team went through. But a lot of it had to do, first of all, we have to look at the history of how this all happened. This was all part of his contract. When he was a player, like he was going to be able to have a first-time option to purchase a team. As soon as those wheels went in motion in 2014, they broke down almost immediately because Miami in itself is such a problematic city when it comes to ownership of, landscape and getting the right money and funding. So at this same exact time, Marcelo Claure, who basically is the CEO of Sprint, South American International, he also wanted to do a deal with Barcelona to do a team in Miami. That fell through in 2008. And in 2011, he met Simon Fuller at Jennifer Lopez's house, and then they all got together, and then eventually this became the announcement from yesterday. But it was also basically going to break, all this was going to break down a few months ago. It was not going to happen. So, but it takes a long time, mainly because of the city in itself.
Yeah, still in need of a team name, right. a stadium down the road, so a lot of hurdles still to cross.
Jerseys.
They won't have to get rid of Stanton, though.
No. Yeah, they don't have to sell any players off before they come.
No, they're fine there.
Luis, another name that we keep talking about. The storyline doesn't really go away. Swedish superstar Zlatan Ibrahimovic. The rumors of him coming to the MLS, this time to the Galaxy possibly. 36 years old. Can he contribute to a Galaxy team?
So like you said, this happens every year. We talk about Zlatan coming to MLS. If you had asked me this question in 2017, so this time last year, I would have said, great. because he was still healthy enough to contribute. We know that Zlatan as a player doesn't really depend so much on pace. He's such an incredible threat, both in the air, holding the ball. He can finish from almost anywhere. But he's injury prone right now, 36 years old. Also, LA Galaxy right now, they don't have an identity. Shige Schmidt just came in to become the coach because they had an awful 2017 season. So we're going to see what's going to happen. If he comes to MLS, I mean, obviously MLS fans would love that. But right now, if he goes to the Galaxy, it's almost like a blank slate. We don't know what's going to happen, both from LA Galaxy's perspective and Zlatan's.
Speaking of movement, it was announced yesterday Jack Harrison is going from one city to another. Man City, you know, the Premier League Titans, they sign him, but only to put him out on loan to Middlesbrough. How beneficial is selling younger players to bigger clubs for the growth of the league?
So this answer comes in two parts to me. I think that also the name Balou Tabla, who's an 18-year-old Canadian player who plays for Montreal Impact, and he was just sold right now, a few weeks ago, to Barcelona's B team. So that's another MLS prospect that's gone to Europe. Now, from an MLS perspective, this is great, because MLS is now a league that can do business back and forth with Europe. It's not just about taking from Europe. It's now saying we have actually talent that you can purchase back and forth. For NYCFC, I mean, it's a loss. Jack Harrison is a great player. He's one of those core three players up front for NYCFC. As you mentioned, Manchester City, who owns NYCFC, where, you know, they put a lot of, you know, eggs into the basket towards Jack Harrison. Last season, he was the first player that was cultivated in North America to become an under-21 England player. Going to the Premier League, going to be loaned out to Middlesbrough, who play in the Championship. This is a good move because the Championship is almost kind of like MLS. Championship, I think, in terms of pace and talent is a little bit better maybe, but it's a great move because it's going to help him develop even further. And he's a very young player. I mean, you know, what he does with Middlesbrough for half a season and then we see next season, I think it's a really good move.
How tough is it for MLS teams at this point to toe that line between what's good for business, how you're saying that relationship in the trading of players, but also, you said it's a big loss. They're losing talent abroad.
Yeah, I think it's problematic when they don't get anything in return. But that is happening because now we're seeing MLS do something that should have happened a few years ago. Their focus is now on South and Central American talent. They're purchasing young, talented players from South American teams, South American club teams, to come to America. Now, because there's this transition of focus on those kind of talent and coming into the league, then now you can make business with Europe. It's not an issue. The issue becomes when they take, and then there's no growth from within homegrown talent. You know, teams like Atlanta United and, you know, Portland and Seattle, they put so much focus into their academies that they want to see these players eventually make a decision towards playing here in Europe. It's nothing but good for Major League Soccer, but it is a talent loss from MLS. But like I said, South American talent coming in is nothing but a good thing.
Let's talk national team soccer and mainly your specialty, the Mexican national team, Luis. We know that. They got a friendly coming up Wednesday with Bosnia-Herzegovina. How important is this match and what can we expect from the Mexican team?
So this is Mexico's first game in 2019, first match in 2019. Juan Carlos Osorio, the coach of Mexico, has specifically chosen, well, for two reasons really, because this doesn't fall under a FIFA date of international matches. You can't really choose anybody from European clubs. So the squad is basically MLS and Liga MX players. Mexico has a lot to do this summer. Right? This is a very, very big year for them. They're going to the World Cup. They have a tough group, right? So, but this is really like a tester for many players. Jonathan Gonzalez, who chose Mexico over the U.S., he's in this squad, so we'll see what he can do. But it's going to be the first test of Mexico and see what they can do in terms of building towards Russia, of course, in June.
Always best to get that done in the friendlies, I suppose.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you can't really, you know, say much what happens, especially against Bosnia. They're not, you know, they're 38th or 39th in FIFA. They're also not going to the World Cup. I mean, but, you know, the U.S., you know, starting all over again, it was a horrible 0-0 draw on Sunday night against Bosnia. We'll see what Mexico can do, because this is a team that's going to the World Cup, let's not forget.
And we'll get more from Luis as that all unfolds, of course. That'll do it for us here today on SI Now Live. Make sure you check us out tomorrow morning at 10:30 a.m. Eastern. And meanwhile, for the latest updates and videos, follow SI Now Live on Twitter.